The Obsidian. A fantasy sleep story, presented by Bedtime Stories. Make yourself comfortable, close your eyes, take a slow, deep breath. And now, let the story begin. The world began with a whisper, or so the legends claimed in the whispering glades. A soft, shimmering exhale that birthed the first luminous flora, painted the rivers with liquid starlight, and imbued the very air with a gentle, hummable magic. It was a world Lyra knew intimately, not just with her eyes, but with every sensitive fiber of her being. Lyra, with hair the color of spun moonlight and eyes the deep, dappled green of moss after a spring rain, was a child of the glades in the truest sense. Her home was a hollow in the base of a great willow, its ancient branches draped with glowing vines that pulsed with a soft, warm light, chasing away the deepest shadows. She could feel the pulse of the earth beneath her bare feet, hear the sighs of the wind as it wove through the towering star-crowned trees, and understand the subtle rustling conversations of the leaves. Other children might chase fireflies or play hide-and-seek amongst the glowing toadstools, but Lyra often found herself simply listening. She listened to the contented hum of the lumina beetles as they tended their glowing lichen gardens, to the sleepy murmur of the starlight river as it wound its way through the valley, carrying motes of iridescent light on its currents. She heard the tiny, hopeful chirp of a sprout pushing through the soil, and the ancient, echoing dreams of the root guardians that slumbered beneath the oldest trees. To Lyra, the glades were a symphony, a constant, gentle chorus of life and magic, and she was its most devoted audience. Every morning Lyra would rise with the first blush of dawn, not from the sun, which rarely pierced the thick, vibrant canopy of the glades, but from the gradual brightening of the sky flowers that blossomed high above. She would slip out of her willow home, her small feet soft on the mossy ground, and make her way to the nearby stream of whispers. There, the water flowed over polished, smooth stones that seemed to sing with tiny voices, and the air was always thick with the scent of dew-kissed fern and sweet wild honeysuckle. Dipping her hands into the cool, clear water, she would feel the faint tingle of its vitality, a familiar comfort. This morning, however, as Lyra stood by the stream of whispers, a subtle discord hummed beneath the usual harmony. It wasn't loud, not yet, but it was there, like a single instrument playing slightly flat in a grand orchestra. The water, usually so vibrant and alive, felt a touch cooler, a whisper less effervescent. The tiny singing stones seemed to hold a quieter tune, their usual joyous hum dampened, almost hesitant. Lyra frowned, her brow furrowing with a concern that was unusual for a girl of her sunny disposition. She reached out, her fingers brushing against a patch of echo moss that grew on an ancient fallen log. The echo moss was famous in the glades for its ability to absorb and reflect sound, creating soft, echoing melodies when spoken to. Today, its usual brilliant emerald hue seemed muted, and when Lyra softly hummed a tune, the moss's reflection was faint, almost a whisper of a whisper. Over the next few days, the subtle shifts grew more pronounced. The luminous vines that usually lit the paths at twilight seemed to glow with a dimmer, more hesitant light. The lumina beetles, typically a flurry of iridescent activity, moved with a noticeable slowness, their internal light sacs flickering less brightly. Even the starlight river, the lifeblood of the glades, seemed to carry fewer shimmering motes, its surface a shade less brilliant, its gentle murmur a note lower. Lyra tried to ignore it at first, telling herself it was just a passing phase, a quiet moment in the glades' eternal cycle. But the feeling of unease persisted, gnawing at the edges of her peaceful heart. She found herself spending more time in quiet observation, her senses stretched taut, trying to pinpoint the source of the growing dissonance. The air itself felt thinner, less charged with the vibrant energy she had always taken for granted. The ancient echoing dreams of the root guardians, which usually rippled through the earth as a gentle, comforting presence, were now faint, almost indiscernible. One evening, as the sky flowers above began their evening bloom, casting soft, shifting colors across the glades, Lyra sat by her willow home, watching the faint glow of the lumina orchids. Usually, their petals would unfurl with a soft iche-pope and release a wave of warm, golden light. Tonight, they opened slowly, hesitantly, and their light was a pale, buttery yellow, far from the vibrant gold she remembered. A single tear, born of quiet worry, traced a path down her cheek. The glades were ailing, and Lyra, with her deep connection, felt its pain as her own. There was only one person in the glades who might understand what was happening, one who held the ancient stories and the wisdom of countless seasons in her heart, Grandmother, Elara. Elara lived high in the oldest part of the Whispering Glades, where the trees grew so tall their crowns seemed to touch the stars, and their roots were gnarled with the weight of centuries. Her home was not built, but grown. A vast living treehouse woven from the branches of the grandfather oak, its windows framed by ancient flowering vines. With a newfound determination, Lyra gathered a small pouch of dried glowberries and a canteen of fresh spring water. She knew the path to Elara's home well, having visited many times for stories and advice. But tonight, as she set out, the path felt different. The usually friendly shadows seemed deeper. The rustling leaves carried a whisper of concern rather than their usual cheerful chatter. Her small bare feet, usually so confident on the forest floor, felt a tremor of uncertainty. As she walked, the air grew cooler, and the faint familiar chime of the wind bells woven into the higher branches by ancient hands seemed less melodious, more like a sigh. She passed the grove of whispering stones, where smooth gray boulders were said to hold the echoes of forgotten songs. Tonight, they were silent, their surfaces dull and unreflective. Lyra felt a pang of sadness. This was more than just a passing shift. Something fundamental was changing. Finally, after an hour of walking through the increasingly subdued forest, Lyra saw the faint, steady light of Grandmother Elara's home. It was a comforting beacon in the gathering gloom, a warm, golden glow emanating from the ancient oak. As she approached, she saw Elara, her form silhouetted against the light of her doorway, tending to a small patch of moon moss that grew on her balcony. Elara's back was stooped with age, her hair a silver halo around her head, but her movements were still graceful, imbued with a quiet strength. "Lyra, child." Elara's voice was like the soft rustle of dry leaves, warm and knowing. She turned, and her eyes, though ancient, sparkled with the wisdom of distant stars. "I felt you coming," a ripple in the glade's quiet song. Come in, the evening air grows chill." Lyra stepped into the warmth of Elara's home. The interior was a marvel of living architecture, woven from branches and roots, filled with the scent of dried herbs and old wood. Shelves carved into the living walls held ancient scrolls tied with glowing silk, jars of luminous dust, and trinkets that hummed with faint, forgotten magic. A small, crackling fire made of shimmering ember wood cast dancing shadows on the walls. "Grandmother Elara," Lyra began, her voice barely a whisper. "The glades, they are changing. The light is dimming. The river feels cold. The echo moss is silent. I feel it, deep inside." She hugged herself, trying to convey the pervasive unease that had settled upon her. Elara nodded slowly, her gaze thoughtful, as she settled onto a cushion woven from cloud silk. "Yes, little sprout, I have felt it too. You, with your open heart and keen senses, would feel it before most. The melody of the glades grows faint, does it not? Like a breath held too long." Lyra nodded, relief washing over her that Elara understood. "What is happening, Grandmother? Is there a sickness, a shadow creeping in?" Elara sighed, a sound like the wind through ancient pines. "No, child, not a sickness of the body, but of the spirit. The glades are not sick, but their light is fading because the great balance has shifted. You see, the Whispering Glades draw their vitality from a deep, ancient source, a place where the magic of the world coalesces and reflects its truth." She paused, her eyes seeming to gaze into a distant past. "Long, long ago, when the first sky flowers bloomed and the starlight river first carved its path, the glades were blessed with a powerful heartstone. Not a stone of raw power, but of pure reflection. It is called the Obsidian Mirror." Lyra leaned forward, captivated. "The Obsidian Mirror? I've heard the name in lullabies, but I thought it was just a story." "Many truths begin as stories, Lyra," Elara said, a gentle smile touching her lips. "The Obsidian Mirror is real. It lies deep within the earth, in the heart of the Shadow Vale Mountains, far beyond the familiar paths of the glades. It is not a place of darkness, as its name might suggest, but a place of profound clarity. It reflects the very health of the world's magic. When the world is vibrant and alive with magic, the Obsidian Mirror shines with an inner light, feeding the glades with its reflected vitality. But when the magic of the world begins to wane, or when the balance is disrupted..." "So, the mirror is dimming now?" Lyra asked, a cold knot forming in her stomach. Elara's expression was grave. Indeed, for many seasons I have felt a slow, almost imperceptible fading, but in recent weeks the dimming has quickened. The mirror, which should reflect the vibrant pulse of the world, now shows only a faint, flickering image. We do not know why. No one has journeyed to the Obsidian mirror in generations, not since the Great Silence, when the world's magic nearly vanished entirely. What can we do? Lyra asked, her voice small but resolute. Elara looked at Lyra, her ancient eyes twinkling with a sudden intensity. Someone must go, Lyra. Someone must journey to the Obsidian mirror, not just to observe but to understand, to feel what the mirror feels, to see what it reflects, and perhaps to find a way to reignite its light. And I believe that someone must be you. Lyra gasped. Me? But, grandmother, I'm just Lyra. I only listen to the leaves. And that, child, is precisely why you must go, Elara replied, her voice firm. Your heart is pure, your spirit is true, and your connection to the glades is deeper than any I have known in a long, long time. You hear the whispers that others cannot. You feel the subtle shifts that others miss. The journey will be long and perhaps fraught with unseen challenges, but you carry the hope of the glades within you. She rose, moving with surprising agility to a small, hidden alcove in the wall. From it, she retrieved a smooth gray river stone, perfectly oval, warmed by age and polished by countless currents. It hummed faintly in her palm, a soft, comforting vibration. Take this, Lyra, Elara said, placing the stone in Lyra's outstretched hand. It felt warm, almost alive. This is a heartstone of the glades, passed down through my line for generations. It will guide you, protect you from ill will, and help you find your way when the path grows unclear. It holds a small piece of the glade's own magic, a constant reminder of what you carry in your heart. Lyra clutched the stone, its warmth spreading through her hand and into her chest. Fear mingled with a thrilling sense of purpose. Her small world was about to become much, much larger. Where is it, grandmother? The Shadow Vale Mountains? Lyra asked, her voice steadier now. Elara pointed towards a section of the wall where a faded, intricate tapestry depicted the glades and the lands beyond. Beyond the great woods where the ancient pines stand sentinel, you will find the foothills of the Shadow Vales. The mirror lies deep within them, guarded by the ancient spirits of the rock. Follow the old paths, Lyra. The Heartstone will pulse stronger when you are on the right track. Lyra spent the rest of the evening listening intently to Elara's instructions, absorbing every detail, every warning, every sliver of encouragement. She learned of the Whispering Woods, where the trees themselves offered advice to those who listened, and of the Shimmering Falls, whose waters held the power of clarity. She learned of ancient signs and forgotten trails, of the gentle creatures who might offer aid, and the subtle dangers that might impede her way. As the skyflowers outside began their final sleepy dimming, Lyra prepared for her journey. She packed a small satchel with dried berries, flatbread, a water skin, and a soft, woven blanket. The Heartstone pulsed gently in her pocket, a steady, rhythmic beat against her thigh. Just as she was about to leave Elara's home, a flicker of iridescent light caught her eye. A tiny creature, no bigger than her thumb, hovered near her shoulder. It had wings like spun moonbeams and a body that glowed with a soft, internal light, shifting through all the colors of the rainbow. It was a whisperwing, one of the rare and shy creatures of pure light that sometimes flitted through the glades. This one had been drawn to her, perhaps by the strength of her resolve, or the silent hum of the Heartstone. It chimed softly, a sound like tiny crystal bells, and brushed its delicate antennae against her cheek. "Hello, little one," Lyra whispered, charmed. "Are you coming with me?" The Whisperwing, whom Lyra instantly named Flicker, spiraled around her head, its light growing brighter, its chimes more insistent. It seemed to understand, and its presence, small as it was, filled Lyra with a renewed sense of courage. With a final heartfelt hug to Grandmother Elara, Lyra stepped out into the quiet, dimming glades. The air was cool, carrying the scent of damp earth and the distant, fading magic. Flicker danced around her, a tiny beacon of light in the growing gloom. The path ahead was less defined, leading away from the comforting familiarity of her home, deeper into the ancient, silent parts of the forest, towards the distant, looming presence of the Shadow Vale Mountains. The trees here were older, their branches heavier with age, their leaves a darker, more somber green. The ground was covered with thick velvety moss, muffling her footsteps. The first part of her journey would take her through the Whispering Woods, a place known for its profound quiet and ancient wisdom. Lyra took a deep breath, the heartstone a warm weight in her pocket, Flicker a shimmering companion by her side. She was just Lyra, a girl who listened to the leaves, but she was also the hope of the Whispering Glades, embarking on a journey to find the truth reflected in the obsidian mirror. The ground was covered with thick, velvety moss, muffling her footsteps. The first part of her journey would take her through the Whispering Woods, a place known for its profound quiet and ancient wisdom. Lyra took a deep breath, the heartstone a warm weight in her pocket, Flicker a shimmering companion by her side. She was just Lyra, a girl who listened to the leaves, but she was also the hope of the Whispering Glades, embarking on a journey to find the truth reflected in the obsidian mirror. As Lyra stepped deeper into the Whispering Woods, the world around her seemed to soften. The air grew cooler, carrying the scent of damp earth and something subtly sweet, like dew-kissed wildflowers hidden beneath ancient roots. Overhead, the canopy of leaves, woven from trees older than memory, filtered the sunlight into a mosaic of shifting emerald and gold. It wasn't dark, but rather wide, deeply shading, creating a sense of intimate enclosure. Flicker, usually a vibrant spark of restless energy, seemed to quieten too, her luminescence pulsing with a softer, more rhythmic glow, as if attuned to the pulse of the forest itself. She hovered close to Lyra's shoulder, her tiny, multifaceted eyes scanning the intricate patterns of bark and the delicate tracery of fern fronds. Lyra walked slowly, her senses wide open. The profound quiet of the woods wasn't an emptiness, but a silence brimming with untold stories. She found herself listening not just with her ears, but with her skin, with the gentle hum of the heartstone against her thigh, with the very tips of her fingers as they brushed against the rough bark of a towering oak. She listened to the way the light dappled, to the intricate patterns in the moss, to the slow, deliberate growth of a mushroom cluster. This was the true whispering of the woods, a language of presence and patience, felt rather than heard. Suddenly, Flicker darted ahead, a streak of silvery light, then hovered by a particularly ancient, gnarled tree. Its trunk was so wide, Lyra could have hidden an entire family behind it. Its roots, thick as sleeping serpents, snaked across the mossy ground. But it was the moss itself that caught her attention. On this tree, it seemed to vibrate with a faint, almost imperceptible tremor. Lyra knelt, pressing her palm flat against the cool, springy carpet. A sensation bloomed in her mind, not a sound, but a feeling. It was a memory, distant and hazy, like a dream half forgotten upon waking. A sensation of rain, not falling, but being absorbed, of slow, steady growth, of the deep, comforting embrace of the earth. She felt the ancient pulse of the tree, its roots reaching endlessly down, its branches yearning endlessly up. "What is it, Lyra?" Flicker's voice was a chime, soft and questioning. "The moss," Lyra whispered, her eyes wide. "It remembers. It holds the memories of the woods, like tiny, soft sponges." She closed her eyes, focusing. The feeling intensified. She saw the slow unfurling of leaves in spring, the patient wait through winter, the gentle sigh of countless breezes through countless seasons. It wasn't a clear picture, but a tapestry of sensations, colors, and the deep, abiding peace of the forest. This was a new kind of listening. The leaves spoke in rustles and murmurs, the moss spoke in echoes of time. As they continued, Lyra began to seek out these moss whispers. She'd pause by ancient stones draped in emerald velvet, or fallen logs slowly being reclaimed by the forest floor. Each touch brought a new, gentle wave of understanding. She learned of the tiny, iridescent beetles that polished the undersides of leaves, of the secret paths of the silent, gliding owls, of the way water seeped through the earth, nourishing everything. The woods were not just quiet, they were a vast, living library, and the moss was its index. After what felt like an age, though the sun barely shifted in the dappled sky, the trees began to change. They grew even taller, their trunks twisting into more elaborate, almost sculptural forms. The moss became thicker, richer, its greens deepening to jade and emerald. The ground beneath her feet began to slope gently downwards, and the air grew noticeably cooler, carrying a faint earthy dampness that hinted at hidden springs. The path, if it could be called that, grew fainter, dissolving into a labyrinth of interwoven roots. These weren't merely obstacles, but seemed to form intentional patterns, giant, organic braids that rose and fell, creating archways and tunnels. This was the labyrinth of roots, a place where the ancient trees chose to reveal their deepest, most intricate architecture. "How do we get through this, Lyra?" Flicker asked, her glow dimming slightly, perhaps a little intimidated by the sheer complexity of the tangled pathways. Lyra took a steadying breath. "The moss remembers," she murmured, touching a particularly thick root that curved like a sleeping dragon. She pressed her hand against the velvet cushion. This time the memory wasn't of seasons, but of purpose. A faint, almost magnetic pull. A direction. "It feels like it wants us to go this way," she said, pointing to an archway formed by two colossal roots intertwining, draped with shimmering silvery lichen. They began to navigate the labyrinth. It was slow going. Lyra found herself relying entirely on the moss whispers. Sometimes a root would seem to block the way, but by touching its mossy surface, she'd feel a gentle nudge towards a barely visible opening, or a sense of wrongness that would make her backtrack. Flicker, too, became invaluable. Her light, usually bright, would subtly shift color. A faint amber for a promising path, a cool blue for a dead end, a soft green for a path that, while not direct, led to something interesting. The air grew heavier, thick with the scent of ancient wood and damp earth. Strange, bioluminescent fungi glowed in the darkest nooks, casting a soft ethereal light that made the roots seem to writhe and flow like a slow-motion river. Lyra found herself humming a quiet tune, a melody she'd heard the wind play through the reeds back home, its gentle rhythm a counterpoint to the silent, thoughtful navigation. Suddenly, the path opened into a small circular clearing. In its center, nestled amongst the roots, was a creature Lyra had never seen before. It was enormous, at least as big as a small pony, but it wasn't a mammal. It was a beetle, but a beetle of impossible beauty and scale. Its carapace shimmered with the colors of polished obsidian and deep sapphire, flecked with tiny star-like points that seemed to glow from within. Its antennae, long and delicate, waved slowly, tasting the air. Its many legs, each tipped with a tiny moss-covered claw, were tucked neatly beneath its massive body. It looked incredibly ancient, its multifaceted eyes holding the stillness of millennia down. This was the great root guardian, Lyra realized, a creature of legend in the glades, said to be the living heart of the labyrinth of roots. It was said to only reveal itself to those who truly listened to the forest. Lyra froze, her hand instinctively going to the heartstone in her pocket, not out of fear, but reverence. Flicker, however, seemed delighted. Oh. She zipped in playful circles around the guardian's head, her light a dazzling dance. The great root guardian slowly, ponderously, lifted its head. Its multifaceted eyes, each facet a tiny, shimmering mirror, focused on Lyra. There was no sound, no growl, no roar. But Lyra felt a thought, clear as a bell, echo in her mind. "Welcome, listener. You walk with the breath of the ancient ones." "Antidol." Lyra curtsied, a little awkwardly, but sincerely. "Honored guardian," she whispered. "My name is Lyra. I am on a journey to find the truth reflected in the obsidian mirror." The guardian shifted, a low, rumbling vibration emanating from its vast body, that Lyra felt through the soles of her feet. "The mirror demands truth from within, little listener. Not just from without." Its voice was not spoken but woven directly into her thoughts, a symphony of deep earth and rustling leaves. Many try to rush through the roots. They find only confusion. You listen. You feel. This is good. Unwind. Put down now. One of its enormous antennae slowly, gracefully, lowered itself, pointing towards a section of the ground directly in front of Lyra. The moss there seemed to part, revealing a patch of bare, dark earth. Then, with a slow, deliberate movement, the guardian extended one of its moss-tipped claws. It gently scraped away a thin layer of soil. Beneath, nestled in the damp earth, was not a gem or a jewel, but a single, perfectly formed seed. It was no bigger than Lyra's thumbnail, but it glowed with a faint internal luminescence, pulsing with a soft golden light. "This is a seed of remembrance," the guardian communicated. "It holds the memory of all paths, all choices, all growth. Plant it when you feel lost. It will not show you the way, but it will remind you of the way you chose, and the strength within that choice. Lyra carefully picked up the seed. It was warm to the touch, and its light pulsed gently in her palm. "Thank you, honored guardian," she said, her voice filled with awe. She carefully tucked the seed of remembrance into a small, soft pouch she carried for gathering herbs, placing it next to the heartstone. The guardian slowly lowered its head again, its multifaceted eyes closing, returning to its ancient slumber. Flicker landed softly on Lyra's shoulder, her light a steady comfort. Lyra bowed one last time to the magnificent creature, then turned. The root guardian had indicated a path forward, a subtle parting of the roots that Lyra hadn't noticed before, beyond where the seed had been found. It led upward, out of the deep labyrinth. The climb was gradual, and the air slowly grew lighter, fresher. The dense canopy began to thin, allowing more sunlight to stream through. The moss underfoot became less thick, eventually giving way to soft, springy grass. Lyra emerged from the labyrinth of roots not into another part of the forest, but into a wide, open clearing. The clearing was breathtaking. It was a vast bowl of green, surrounded by the receding tree line of the Whispering Woods. In its center, arranged in a perfect circle, stood a dozen colossal stones. They weren't rough boulders but smoothly polished obelisks, each one taller than the tallest tree Lyra had ever seen. They hummed with a soft melodic vibration that Lyra felt in her bones, a gentle, resonant chord that filled the air with an almost tangible peace. These were the Singing Stones, a legend she'd heard, whispered among the glade folk. They were said to be the resting places of ancient star fragments, each one holding a unique tone of the universe. As Lyra approached, the humming grew stronger, a symphony of deep bass and soaring treble, a song without words. She reached out and touched the nearest stone. It was cool and smooth, like polished moonlight. As her fingers made contact, the stone's hum intensified, and a ripple of pure, resonant energy flowed into her. It wasn't overwhelming, but invigorating, like drinking from a spring of pure, sparkling starlight. She closed her eyes, letting the vibrations wash over her. The stones were singing a song of unity, of connection, of the delicate balance that held the world together. She felt her own heart beat in rhythm with their ancient melody, and a sense of profound belonging settled over her. She realized that her ability to listen, which had begun with the leaves, and deepened with the moss, was now expanding to encompass these grand, silent sentinels. She could feel the history of the stones, their journey through cosmic dust and their long, patient watch over this clearing. Flicker, entranced, danced between the stones, her light flaring and dimming in time with their ethereal song. Lyra walked the circle, touching each one, absorbing its unique note, until she felt utterly saturated with their harmony. When she opened her eyes, the world seemed sharper, colors more vibrant, sounds more distinct, even the gentle rustle of leaves at the edge of the woods. It was as if the Singing Stones had tuned her own inner instrument, refining her senses. She noticed a small crystalline pool at the very center of the stone circle, fed by a barely visible spring. The water within shimmered with an inner light, reflecting the sky and the stones with impossible clarity. Lyra knelt, cupped her hands and drank. The water was cool and sweet, tasting of pure starlight and deep earth. It refreshed her, not just her body, but her spirit, washing away any lingering weariness from her journey. As she rose, she noticed something she hadn't seen before. Just beyond the circle of Singing Stones where the grass met a gentle slope, the ground began to change. The vibrant green gave way to a softer, silvery gray hue. The air grew cooler still, carrying a faint, damp chill. And in the distance, stretching across the horizon, she saw it, a shimmering, ethereal veil. It was a river, but unlike any river she had ever imagined. It wasn't water that flowed, but mist, a wide, slow-moving current of pearlescent vapor, coiling and swirling, rising from an unseen depth. It glowed faintly, catching the light in 1,000 shifting shades of white and silver. This was the River of Mists, the legendary boundary of the Whispering Woods and the gateway to the next stage of her quest. A thrill of both apprehension and excitement ran through Lyra. The Whispering Woods had tested her patience, her intuition, and her ability to listen in new ways. It had gifted her with the seed of remembrance and the harmonious tuning of the Singing Stones. Now, before her lay a new challenge, a new mystery. How did one cross a river made of mist? What lay beyond its shimmering veil? Flicker, sensing Lyra's anticipation, zipped around her head in an excited loop, her light pulsing brightly. Lyra reached into her pouch, feeling the comforting weight of the heartstone and the gentle warmth of the seed of remembrance. She had faced the quiet wisdom of the woods, and she felt stronger, more connected to the world around her than ever before. With a deep breath, Lyra took her first step towards the shimmering, silent expanse of the River of Mists, ready for whatever wonders and trials awaited her on the other side. Lyra took her first step towards the shimmering, silent expanse of the River of Mists. The ground beneath her foot didn't feel like solid earth, nor did it give way to water. Instead, her boot sank slightly into a cushion of cool, ethereal vapor that tasted faintly of ozone and forgotten dreams. The mist, which from a distance had seemed a flat, reflective sheet, now swirled around her ankles, a living, breathing entity. Whisper, sensing the shift, zipped around her head in a tighter, more protective orbit, her light dimming slightly to a soft, pulsing gleam as if in reverence. The air grew colder, but the warmth radiating from the heartstone in Lyra's pouch, and the subtle, living pulse of the seed of remembrance, offered a comforting anchor. With a deep breath, Lyra took another step, and then another. The mist rose to her knees, then her waist, enfolding her in a veil of pearlescent gray. Sounds from the forest behind her faded, replaced by an absolute profound silence that pressed in on her ears. It was a silence not of absence but of fullness, as if every sound that had ever been, or ever would be, was held suspended within the mist, waiting for its cue. She stretched out a hand, and the mist parted like silken fabric, revealing not emptiness, but fleeting images. Wisps of scenes flickered past, a laughing child chasing fireflies, a forgotten star falling across a midnight sky, the delicate unfurling of a fern frond in spring. They were not her memories, nor entirely unfamiliar. They felt like echoes, whispers of life from every corner of the world, woven into the very fabric of this crossing. "Hello," Lyra murmured, her voice feeling strangely small in the vast quiet. The mist rippled in response, and a particularly vivid image solidified before her. A lone, ancient tree, its branches reaching like gnarled fingers towards a sky painted in impossible shades of violet and emerald. It was a fleeting vision, gone as quickly as it appeared, but it left a faint sense of yearning in Lyra's heart. Whisper nudged her cheek, and Lyra understood. This wasn't a river to be crossed by strength or speed, but by intention and inner quiet. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the coolness of the mist seep into her skin, and focused on the steady beat of her own heart. She felt the gentle thrum of the heartstone against her hip, grounding her, and the subtle warmth of the seed, reminding her of connection and growth. When she opened her eyes, the mist seemed less chaotic, more ordered. The fleeting images still danced at the periphery, but a faint shimmering path had coalesced before her. It wasn't a path of light, but of absence of mist, a tunnel of clearer air that stretched forward into the swirling gray. It was barely perceptible, a suggestion more than a solid route, but it was there. Trusting her instincts and the subtle guidance of Whisper, whose light brightened slightly at the sight of the path, Lyra continued to walk. The journey felt timeless. There was no sense of distance, only the constant gentle embrace of the mist. She found herself observing the ephemeral visions with a growing sense of peace. Some were joyful, some poignant, all beautiful in their transient nature. She realized the mist wasn't trying to confuse her, but to share with her the myriad facets of existence, to remind her of the interconnectedness of all things. As she walked, Lyra felt herself changing subtly. Her thoughts, which usually darted and danced, became calmer, clearer. The noise of her own mind, the endless stream of questions and observations, quieted. She felt a lightness in her step, a sense of shedding unnecessary burdens. The heartstone's warmth pulsed steadily, a heartbeat in the quiet, and the seed of remembrance hummed with a low, comforting vibration, like a distant lullaby. Suddenly, the path began to ascend. The cool mist gave way to a gentle, rising breeze. The pearlescent gray thinned, becoming translucent, then sheer. Lyra looked up and gasped. Above her, the mist broke away entirely, revealing a sky of such breathtaking clarity and depth that it stole her breath. It wasn't merely blue, It was an infinite canvas of cerulean, sapphire, and a pale luminous silver where distant clouds like spun sugar drifted lazily. She stood on what appeared to be a vast, shimmering plateau, stretching out beneath an endless dome of sky. This was no ordinary land. It was a realm woven from light and air, where the very ground seemed to hum with a quiet energy. The air here was crisp and exhilarating, carrying the scent of distant unknown flowers and the clean tang of pure wind. Whisper, delighted, zipped high above her, tracing joyful spirals against the boundless blue, her light now a brilliant, steady beacon. Lyra took a step forward, feeling a spring in her stride she hadn't known before. The ground beneath her feet was not rock or earth, but a resilient, grassy surface that shimmered with iridescent dew, reflecting the light like a million tiny prisms. Strange, slender trees, their leaves like polished silver and gold, swayed gently in the unseen currents of air, their branches reaching upwards as if yearning to touch the sky itself. This was the shimmering expanse, a place of profound quiet and immense space. As Lyra walked, she noticed that the light here wasn't static. It shifted and flowed, sometimes like liquid gold, sometimes like shimmering silk, casting ever-changing patterns across the landscape. She felt a deep sense of peace settle over her, a feeling of being utterly open and connected to the vastness around her. She walked for what felt like hours, though time seemed to lose its meaning in this radiant place. The only sounds were the gentle sigh of the wind and the faint musical rustle of the silver-leafed trees. She observed a creature resembling a large iridescent dragonfly, its wings catching the light in a kaleidoscope of colors, drift past, utterly unafraid. As the light began to soften, hinting at a distant, luminous sunset, Lyra noticed a structure in the far distance. It wasn't a building but rather a colossal formation that seemed to be woven from clouds themselves. It spiraled upwards, a tower of pearlescent vapor, catching the last golden rays of the sun and glowing with an inner light. It looked both ancient and utterly ephemeral, as if a single strong gust of wind could unravel it. Intrigued, and feeling a gentle pull towards it, Lyra began to make her way across the shimmering plains. The closer she got, the more she realized its immense scale. It wasn't a solid tower, but a vast swirling vortex of clouds, constantly shifting and reforming, yet holding its shape with an impossible grace. Wisps of cloud detached themselves and drifted away, only to be replaced by new formations, a perpetual dance of creation and dissolution. At the base of this cloud spire, nestled amongst ancient, wind-sculpted boulders that seemed to hum with a low, resonant frequency, Lyra saw a figure. It was difficult to discern clearly at first, appearing as a shimmering outline against the glowing cloud, but as she drew nearer, its form became clearer. It was a being of pure light and woven air, tall and slender, with limbs that seemed to ripple like heat haze. Its skin was the color of dawn clouds, its hair like spun moonlight, and its eyes, deep and knowing, held the endless blue of the sky. It wore robes woven from iridescent mist, which seemed to shift and flow with every gentle breeze. This was no human, nor a creature of the forest. This was a being of the air, a spirit of the boundless sky. The being sat in a lotus position, utterly still, facing the cloud spire. Its presence radiated a profound calm, a quiet wisdom that resonated with the silence of the sky-swept plains. As Lyra approached, Whisper, who had been circling high above, descended gracefully and hovered beside Lyra's ear, her light a gentle, reassuring pulse. Lyra stopped a respectful distance away. "Hello?" she said, her voice barely a whisper. The being turned its head slowly, its sky-blue eyes falling upon her. There was no surprise, no alarm, only a serene recognition. Its lips, which were merely a soft curve in its luminous face, did not move, yet Lyra heard a voice, clear and soft as a chime of wind bells, resonate directly in her mind. "Welcome, child of earth and growing light. You have crossed the river of mists and found your way to the cloudfall plains." Lyra felt no fear, only a profound sense of wonder. You know who I am. I know the echo of your journey, the whisper of your purpose," the being replied, its voice like the gentle sigh of the wind through distant peaks. "I am Elara, a weaver of clouds, a listener to the winds. I have awaited your arrival." Lyra felt a thrill of excitement and a touch of apprehension. "Awaited me? Why?" Elara gestured with a hand that seemed to leave trails of shimmering light in the air. The currents of fate, like the currents of the wind, carry messages to those who know how to listen. Your journey is a song that has been carried on the breath of the world. You seek connection, truth, and the heart of remembrance. Lyra nodded, surprised by the accuracy of Elara's words. I seek to understand, to feel connected to all things, to help heal the quiet places. A noble quest, Elara murmured, and one that requires more than just courage. Here, in the realm of sky and air, you must learn to listen not with your ears, but with your soul. You must learn to discern the true song amidst the endless whispers of the world. Elara rose effortlessly, as if gravity held no sway over her. She was taller than Lyra had imagined, her form elegant and ethereal. The cloud spire, you see, is more than just clouds. It is a repository of the world's forgotten voices, the echoes of dreams, and the unsaid truths carried on the wind. It is a place where clarity can be found, but also where one can be lost in a cacophony. She walked towards the cloud spire, her feet barely brushing the iridescent grass. Lyra followed, whisper hovering close, her light pulsing with curiosity. As they drew nearer, Lyra could hear it now, a faint, almost imperceptible hum like 1,000 distant voices speaking at once, carried on the wind. It was not discordant, but a vast interwoven tapestry of sound that was both overwhelming and strangely beautiful. Each wisp of cloud, each eddy of air, carries a fragment of a story, a memory, a thought, Elara explained, turning to Lyra. To truly understand the world, one must learn to filter these whispers, to find the single thread of truth that binds them all. How do I do that? Lyra asked, feeling a prickle of unease. The sheer volume of faint whispers was daunting. Be finding the heartbeat of the wind, Elara replied, her sky-blue eyes twinkling. Every realm, every element, has a unique pulse, a central truth that resonates through all its manifestations. In the woods, you found its quiet wisdom. Here in the air, you must find its clear heart. Elara led Lyra to a small, sheltered alcove at the base of the spiraling cloud spire. The air here was slightly calmer, though the faint chorus of whispers still permeated everything. Zit, child, close your eyes. Let the whispers wash over you. Do not try to grasp them or silence them. Simply, listen. Lyra sat, cross-legged, on the shimmering grass, whisper settling gently on her shoulder, her light a steady, comforting presence. She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath of the crisp, clean air. The faint whispers immediately intensified, swirling around her, a torrent of barely audible sounds. She heard fragments of laughter, snippets of ancient songs, the distant crash of ocean waves, the rustle of unseen wings, the murmur of countless conversations. It was overwhelming, a kaleidoscope of sound that threatened to pull her in 1,000 different directions. She tried to focus, to pick out a single voice, but it was impossible. Her mind felt like a sieve, unable to hold on to any one sound before it was swept away by the next. Frustration began to prickle at her. Then, she remembered Elara's words. Do not try to grasp them, or silence them. Simply, listen. And she remembered the quiet wisdom of the woods, the way she had learned to simply jibe with the silence, to feel the life around her without needing to name it. Lyra reached into her pouch, her fingers closing around the smooth, warm surface of the heartstone. Its steady pulse, so familiar and grounding, began to slow her racing thoughts. She also felt the gentle, insistent thrum of the seed of remembrance. The seed, she realized, was not just about recalling the past, but about connecting to the essency of things, to their living core. She focused on the feeling of the stones in her hands, letting their familiar energies flow through her. She began to breathe deeply, slowly, letting the whispers wash over her like soft waves. She stopped trying to understand them, to categorize them. She simply allowed them to exist. As she relaxed into the experience, something shifted. The cacophony didn't disappear, but it began to coalesce, to form patterns. She started to perceive not individual whispers, but the overarching melody they created. It was like listening to a vast orchestra, where individual instruments played different notes, but together they formed a harmonious piece. And within that harmony she began to notice something else. A subtle underlying rhythm. It was faint at first, like the beating of a distant drum, or the slow, steady pulse of the earth itself. It was deeper than the whispers, more fundamental. It was the rhythm of breath, of life, of the endless cycle of creation and dissolution. The heartbeat of the wind. It wasn't a sound she heard with her ears, but a vibration she felt in her very bones, a resonance in her soul. It was the quiet truth that underpinned all the other sounds, the constant, unwavering presence beneath the ever-shifting surface. It felt like the core of the sky-swept plains, the very essence of clarity and boundless freedom. Lyra opened her eyes, feeling a profound sense of peace and understanding. The whispers were still there, but now they seemed less like a challenge and more like a rich, vibrant tapestry that she could appreciate without needing to unravel every thread. She could hear the heartbeat of the wind, strong and clear, resonating through everything. Elara was standing before her, a gentle smile on her luminous face. "You have found it, child," she said, her voice like the rustle of silk. "You have found the clarity amidst the currents. This is the gift of the air, the ability to discern, to see the pattern, to hear the truth in the vastness." Lyra felt a warmth spread through her chest, a quiet joy. "It's beautiful. Overwhelming, but beautiful." "Indeed. And now that you have heard its heartbeat, the winds will carry different messages for you," Elara said. "The cloud spire, too, will reveal itself more truly." As Elara spoke, Lyra looked up at the spiraling cloud spire. Where before it had seemed a beautiful but chaotic swirl of vapor, now she could see its structure, its intention. She saw the currents of air that built it, the way the light played through its layers, the subtle shifts that spoke of ancient tales and future possibilities. She felt a connection to it, a sense of belonging in this vast open realm. "Your journey is not yet complete," Elara continued, her sky-blue eyes gazing into the distance, towards the shimmering horizon where the sky met distant, ethereal mountains. "The heartbeat of the wind has taught you clarity, but there are other heartbeats to find, other truths to uncover. The earth hums with forgotten power, the waters sing with deep wisdom, and the fire dances with fierce transformation. Each holds a piece of the world's memory, a fragment of the great remembrance you seek, each." Lyra felt a renewed sense of purpose, a quiet excitement for what lay ahead. She had learned to navigate the silent truths of the mist, and to find clarity amidst the whispers of the air. She felt lighter, more attuned to the subtle energies around her. "Where do I go next?" she asked, her voice filled with a quiet readiness. Elara smiled, a luminous, serene expression. "Where the sky touches the deep earth, and the mountains hold ancient secrets. Follow the whispers that now carry a clearer melody for you. They will guide you to the whispering peaks, where the stones themselves remember the beginning of time." Lyra looked towards the distant shimmering mountains, their peaks barely visible as faint outlines against the endless sky. The thought of journeying through such a majestic ancient landscape filled her with a thrilling sense of adventure. She thanked Elara, the weaver of clouds, with a deep bow, her heart full of gratitude for the wisdom shared. With Whisper circling excitedly, her light now a vibrant, confident glow, Lyra took a deep breath. She felt the heartstone pulsing steadily, grounding her, and the seed of remembrance humming with new insights. She had faced the quiet wisdom of the woods, navigated the timeless river of mists, and found clarity in the boundless, sky-swept plains. She felt stronger, more connected, and more aware of the intricate tapestry of the world than ever before. With a determined step, Lyra turned towards the distant, ancient silhouette of the whispering peaks, ready to listen to the silent songs of the earth. The air grew crisp and thin as Lyra journeyed towards the peaks. The gentle slopes of the sky-swept plains gradually gave way to rolling foothills, then to rugged, stony terrain where the ground rose sharply into jagged, snow-dusted giants. Each step felt like a climb, but her heartstone pulsed with a steady rhythm, a silent drumbeat of determination within her. The seed of remembrance, nestled close, hummed with anticipation, eager to gather the ancient stories etched into the very bones of the world. Days turned into a slow, deliberate ascent. Lyra navigated narrow passes where winds whispered tales of forgotten glaciers, and climbed steep scree slopes, her boots crunching on ancient stone. The colors of the landscape shifted from the greens and browns of the lower lands to muted grays, whites, and the deep, crystalline blues of icebound crevices. Here, silence was not an absence of sound, but a presence, a vast, resonant stillness that spoke of immense time and unwavering strength. She found shelter in small wind-carved caves, where the air held the scent of cold stone, and something else, a faint, earthy aroma, like roots reaching deep into the planet's core. At night, under a sky ablaze with stars that seemed closer and brighter than anywhere else, Lyra would sit, letting the heartstone ground her, and the seed open her mind. She began to hear them, the first faint notes of the silent songs. Not with her ears, but with a deeper sense, a resonant vibration within her very being. They were subtle at first, the slow, grinding sigh of a glacier shifting in its sleep, the deep thrum of mineral veins running beneath the surface, the patient whisper of crystals growing atom by atom over millennia. She felt the ancient pressure of tectonic plates, the slow, imperceptible stretch and fold of the Earth's crust. It was a song of geology, of raw elemental power, a symphony of creation and erosion playing out over eons. One morning, after a night spent listening to the distant rumbling heart of the mountains, Lyra discovered a path less traveled. It wound through a gorge where the rock faces were striated with bands of iridescent minerals, glowing with soft internal light. Here, the air was warmer, imbued with a gentle warmth that hinted at geothermal springs hidden deep below. As she ventured deeper, the walls of the gorge began to sing more clearly. The rocks themselves seemed to hum, a deep resonant chord that vibrated through her bones. She touched a smooth, cool surface, and the seed of remembrance flared. A cascade of images flooded her mind, the slow, fiery birth of the mountain range, molten rocks surging upwards from the Earth's mantle, ancient seas covering these very peaks, teeming with life, the gradual uplift, the sculpting by wind and water, the relentless march of time. She saw the mountains not as static giants, but as living, breathing entities, constantly forming, changing, remembering. Her journey led her to a high-altitude plateau, a vast, flat expanse carved by ancient ice. At its center stood a cluster of monoliths, jagged spires of dark, polished stone, arranged in a silent, forgotten circle. As Lyra approached, a soft, ethereal light pulsed from within them, mirroring the beat of her heartstone. This was a place of deep power, a nexus where the Earth's silent songs converged. The air here was electric, alive with shimmering energies. The silent songs were no longer faint whispers but a grand harmonious chorus. She heard the deep roots of the world tree, connecting every living thing, the slow, steady current of the planet's magnetic field, the quiet, patient turning of the seasons in the soil below. It was the song of life, of interconnectedness, of the vibrant, breathing pulse of the entire planet. But beneath this grand symphony, Lyra sensed a subtle dissonance, a faint, melancholic undertone. The heartstone, usually a beacon of steady strength, pulsed with a gentle ache. The seed of remembrance, instead of simply absorbing, seemed to yearn to reach out. There was a memory missing, a note out of place in the Earth's ancient melody. Driven by this intuition, Lyra moved towards the largest of the monoliths. Its surface was smooth and dark, reflecting the vast sky like a still pool. As she laid her hand upon it, the monolith flared with an inner light, and a pathway opened before her, not a physical opening, but a shimmering curtain of light that parted, revealing a hidden chamber within the earth itself. Taking a deep breath, Lyra stepped through. She found herself in a cavern of breathtaking beauty. The walls were not rough stone, but crystalline formations, glittering with every color imaginable, catching and refracting the soft light that emanated from a central source. Stalactites and stalagmites of pure luminous quartz met in the middle, forming colossal pillars that seemed to hold up the very roof of the world. The air was warm, humid, and held a faint, sweet scent, like ozone after a summer storm. And at the heart of this crystalline sanctuary lay the source of the light, the very heart of the Whispering Peaks, a colossal, multifaceted crystal, pulsing with a gentle rhythmic glow. It was larger than any gem Lyra had ever imagined, a living jewel of immense power. This was the Earth's memory heart, the true keeper of the silent songs, the deep wellspring of the planet's consciousness. But the light it emitted was dimmer than it should be, its pulse slower, weaker. The magnificent crystal heart seemed to be fading, its vibrant colors muted, its resonant hum a mere echo of what it once was. The melancholic undertone Lyra had sensed outside was amplified here, a profound sorrow that seeped into her very bones. The seed of remembrance throbbed against her chest, a frantic beat that matched the fading pulse of the memory heart. It was trying to tell her something, to impress upon her the gravity of what she saw. The silent songs of the earth were indeed dimming, not because they were forgotten, but because the earth's memory heart itself was losing its resonance, its ability to sing its own ancient truths. Lyra reached out, her hand trembling, and gently touched the cool, smooth surface of the colossal crystal. A wave of profound sadness washed over her, a deep, ancient sorrow that resonated with the geological epochs she had glimpsed earlier. She saw the world's first breath, its vibrant youth, its many wonders. But she also felt the slow erosion of memory, the gradual forgetting that had settled upon the planet like a fine dust, dimming its inner light. The heartstone within her pulsed fiercely, responding to the urgency of the moment. It drew upon her own renewed strength, her connection to the woods, the river, the plains, and channeled it, a beacon of pure, unwavering intent. The seed of remembrance, now vibrating intensely, began to glow with a soft inner light of its own, mirroring the fading crystal before her. Then the seed showed her more. It wasn't just a fading, it was a fragmentation. Over countless ages, as civilizations rose and fell, as the world shifted and changed, certain core memories, certain foundational truths of the planet, had become dislodged, like pieces of a vast, intricate mosaic. The memory heart still pulsed, but its song was incomplete, its full glory unable to resonate without these missing pieces. And then, Lyra understood. Her journey, her gathering of insights from the various realms, had not just been for her own growth. It had been a preparation. The quiet wisdom of the woods, the timeless flow of the river of mists, the boundless clarity of the sky-swept plains, these were not just experiences. They were echoes of those missing memories, fragments of the earth's own truth, which had been scattered across the world, waiting to be rediscovered and rewoven. With a surge of understanding, Lyra knew what she had to do. She placed her left hand firmly against the cool surface of the earth's memory heart, feeling its faint, sorrowful pulse. With her right hand, she pressed the seed of remembrance directly against the heartstone, holding them together over her own chest. As she did, a conduit of pure, vibrant energy ignited. The heartstone, now brimming with her connection to the earth, amplified her every intention, her every feeling of love and wonder for the world. The seed of remembrance, glowing like a tiny sun, began to release the accumulated wisdom it had gathered. It wasn't just Lyra remembering, it was the seed helping the earth remember itself. The quiet wisdom of the woods flowed first, the deep interconnectedness of life, the slow patience of growth, the ancient, silent communication between root and branch. These memories, long muted in the memory heart, surged forward, bringing with them a vibrant green hue that pulsed through the crystalline veins of the cavern. Then came the timeless clarity of the river of mists, the perpetual flow of change, the cleansing power of letting go, the profound understanding that all things are connected by an unseen current. A shimmering blue light, cool and flowing, washed through the cavern, filling forgotten channels within the crystal heart. Next, the boundless perspective of the sky-swept plains, the vastness of possibility, the freedom of spirit, the invigorating sense of limitless space and clarity. A brilliant, expansive golden light, like the sun on an open horizon, radiated outwards, chasing away shadows from the deep crevices of the memory heart. As each memory poured forth, guided by Lyra's unwavering will and the resonant power of her tools, the earth's memory heart began to stir. Its pulse strengthened, growing steadier, more vibrant. The soft light within the colossal crystal intensified, its colors deepening, swirling, and blending into a breathtaking spectrum. Lyra felt the surge of power flow like through her, not just from her. She was a living bridge, a conduit between the scattered memories of the world and its ancient beating heart. The silent songs, once faint and sorrowful, began to swell into a grand, majestic chorus. It was a symphony of creation, of life, of time itself, the deep thrum of the planet's core, the rustle of primordial forests, the rush of ancient oceans, the whisper of stardust settling on newborn mountains. All harmonized, all unified, all remembered. The cavern filled with an exquisite, overwhelming sense of peace and profound joy. The walls of crystal pulsed with such brilliance that Lyra had to close her eyes, not from pain, but from the sheer, overwhelming beauty of it. She felt the earth's gratitude, a silent, loving embrace that wrapped around her soul, making her feel utterly, completely at home. When she finally opened her eyes, the earth's memory heart was blazing with a radiant, steady light, its every facet shimmering with renewed vitality. Its colors were no longer muted but vibrant, alive, a living rainbow of the planet's deepest truths. The melancholic undertone was gone, replaced by a deep, resonant harmony that filled the cavern and surely echoed throughout the entire world. The seed of remembrance, having completed its task, settled back against her chest, no longer frantic but radiating a serene, fulfilled glow. The heartstone pulsed with a powerful, joyous beat, a testament to the renewed connection. They were no longer just tools but extensions of Lyra herself, and now, extensions of a reawakened world. Slowly, gently, the shimmering curtain of light that had served as the entrance began to close. Lyra took one last, reverent look at the vibrant, singing heart of the earth, a memory she knew she would carry always. Stepping back out onto the high plateau, the world seemed transformed. The air was clearer, crisper, carrying a sweet, invigorating scent she hadn't noticed before. The monoliths, once merely stone, now pulsed with a subtle, living light, their surfaces humming with the deep, resonant joy of the reawakened Earth's memory heart. The silent songs of the earth were no longer just for Lyra to discern. They were openly, joyously singing through the very fabric of the world. Her descent from the whispering peaks was different from her ascent. Where before there was the quiet determination of a quest, now there was the joyful lightness of fulfillment. Every stone, every gust of wind, every ancient tree she passed seemed to hum with a newfound vibrancy, a deeper, clearer connection. The heartstone within her chest resonated with this renewed world, a constant reminder of the profound harmony she had helped restore. The seed of remembrance felt warm and content, a keeper of shared memories, her own and the Earth's. As she traveled back through the familiar landscapes, Lyra saw them with new eyes, a deeper understanding. The woods whispered not just quiet wisdom, but now sang with the joy of rediscovered memory. The river of mists flowed with even greater clarity, its current carrying the renewed lifeblood of the world. The sky-swept plains stretched out, not just boundless, but brimming with the vibrant energy of a planet that remembered its full self. When Lyra finally returned to her small, quiet home at the edge of the ancient woods, the sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of deep violet and fiery gold. She stepped inside, and the familiar scent of herbs and old books enveloped her. But she was not the same Lyra who had left. She was still Lyra, but she was also more. She carried within her the quiet wisdom of the woods, the timeless clarity of the river of mists, the boundless perspective of the sky-swept plains, and the ancient, vibrant song of the earth's memory heart. Her heartstone pulsed with a steady, powerful rhythm, a beacon of her unbreakable connection to the world. Her seed of remembrance, nestled close, now held not just her own journey, but the reawakened memories of the earth itself, a silent guardian of its renewed song. She knew her journey was not truly over, for the path of connection and understanding was endless. But the great task, the retuning of the silent songs, was complete. The world was brighter, more alive, humming with a harmony that would slowly, surely touch every living thing. Lyra smiled, a deep, peaceful smile. She felt the gentle hum of the world around her, a lullaby of rediscovered magic. As she settled into her favorite chair by the window, watching the stars emerge, she felt the heartstone pulsing steadily, grounding her, and the seed of remembrance humming with new insights, not just from her, but from the vibrant, reawakened earth. The world was singing, a quiet, joyful melody that promised endless wonder and eternal connection. And Lyra, the girl who had listened to the silent songs, was now a part of that beautiful, unending symphony. She closed her eyes and drifted into a peaceful, dream-filled sleep, knowing the earth was well and its ancient song would echo for all time.